We're back with some more Switch Sports Golf action. Today we have a 1v1 challenge against one of the OG legends of the game, Busykinka, a French player, the man who goes by Busy. Is one of the best players since the creation of the Ranked League, has been consistently top 10, formerly held the world record for the back 9 at 17 under par, which is a ridiculous score. I believe he's made a 28 under at one point, a 16 under on a random 9, so a lot of accolades for Busy. And we're playing some stroke play here. So we're going to play 36 total holes. We're starting with 2 random 9s, so we can see any hole for the first 2 games of this. And then we're going to end with the standard 18. So we kind of made up this format to keep it interesting. And we're just going to play stroke play throughout. So at any point, no matter what the difference in score is, one of us can come back on one hole. And I'm hoping that this is a very exciting format to play. So we're starting on hole 6 in this first random 9 here. I went for the tree strat. Busy did as well. I end up in an okay spot. I can use the 3-iron. I'll hit the fringe though, and I'll get a big bounce. That'll end up in an okay spot though. I can putt it back up that hill. That shouldn't be too difficult of a putt. Busy will end up in a similar looking spot. He may have also hit the fringe from the fairway. Yeah, so he ends up just right next to me. This putt is going to move slightly from left to right. Not a whole lot to it, just have to make sure I hit it pretty hard up that hill. Probably a little over 2 dots of power should be good. And we'll sink them, almost in sync. So 2 birdies at the start here. We'll both be 1 under par through 1. And our stroke play match starts even. So we'll move on to our second hole in this first random 9, which is going to be hole 4 with 9-mile-an-hour winds and that right pin. That right pin is always very tricky. I always try to avoid that right fringe at all costs. Trying to chip or putt from that side is just impossible with that sloping pin. So I'll want to try to leave this a little short if I miss, so I'm going to hit this with some backspin. Busy's going for the spoon play. And he'll bounce just short and roll up pretty nicely, so he'll have a good putt. Mine's going to roll down quite a ways because that green is so slopey, but that'll be just a nice uphill putt from about 20 feet or so. Not too bad. It'll move just a little left to right, so I'll have to take that into account. Busy will tap his putt down the hill for the birdie, and I'm going to adjust just slightly left here, hit it pretty hard up that hill, and it'll fall right in the middle of the cup. So we'll both birdie the second hole. So we'll each be 2 under through 2 in this first 9. And that'll make us all square. So a good start for both of us to this match. We'll move on to the third hole, which is a more difficult hole 18. We have maximum crosswind, 33 miles an hour. But even with this crosswind, you can go for that left island. It's scary, but you can do it with the correct aim. Just have to aim well left. Make sure I hit this full power. And we should be able to safely land in that fairway. We'll end up on the right side of it, but that'll be a fine spot to approach the green from. We can get there in 2. Busy has a nice shot as well. He ends up left of me in the fairway. So we'll both have a pretty good approach. Now this approach shot is also going to be quite difficult with this wind. You really have to aim super far to the left because this is such a long shot. Busy's shot looks like it's on a very good line.
Nice shot.
He'll end up on the green. I'm going to hit the fringe for the second time in 3 holes, and my shot will bound over the green because of that. So kind of an unfortunate bounce. I mean, the fringe is there. You have to avoid it. Otherwise, you end up in a situation like this. I'll have to try to chip it in. And my chip will just miss to the right, so the wind doesn't push it quite as much as I thought it might. And I'll miss on the left side after Busy picks up a nice eagle on a tougher hole. So I'll have to putt this back up that weird little part of the green. I'll sink it for the birdie. But in this stroke play match, Busy now takes the first lead by 1 shot. So he will be 4 under through 3. I'll be 3 under, 1 shot back. And we'll move on to our 4th hole in this 36-hole match, which will be hole 10, with 6-mile-an-hour winds pushing us to the left and also a little bit of headwind to it. So Busy hits a nice shot. It looks like we'll be in a pretty similar spot off of our drives. And this will be a precise approach shot, so not the easiest of shots into this green. That kind of right middle pin, or excuse me, really just the middle pin, is what we're going for. It's kind of in the front, I should say. And the wind is going to push this left, but it's mostly diagonal. So it's not going to move a ton to the left. I'm going to adjust this just a couple squares to the right on that grid on the green mini-map. It looks like Busy's shot is going to miss just to the right. He'll be close on the green, though. I'm going to hit this with some backspin, actually. Try to land it about pin high and try to roll it back. So about 3 dots of power should be about right. That looks like it's on a great line, and I'll just smack the pin. So I'll backboard off the pin. It'll hit me about 20 feet away. So an unfortunate break there. We'll have to hit this one back up the little hill. Fortunately, it's a pretty straight putt from this angle. We get kind of a nice angle off the pin as far as those pin smacks go, and we'll tap that up there for a birdie. So we'll remain 1 shot back. Busy is at 5 under through 4. I am at 4 under. And with 5 holes to play in this first 9, Busy maintains that 1-shot lead. We'll have hole 14 here with 13-mile-an-hour winds right in the face. And I believe this is actually the maximum wind where you can still make this little tree shortcut and end up in the fairway. So I'm hoping if I just hit a full shot in the perfect gap there, and it's trending towards the exact spot where I want to be, that should still make it to the fairway, and it barely does. I saw that Busy took the approach to the left, the safer approach. But I play that one a little more aggressively, and I get rewarded for it. So I'll have a nice approach shot. I can use the 3-iron and put some backspin on this. With this front pin, it's difficult to hold the green unless it's difficult to put it near the pin unless you're able to hit it with backspin. So we'll see how Busy's approach shot ends up from that further left angle off the tee. I really like my alignment here. If I hit this with the proper power, probably about 3.3-ish dots, right about there. I guess that wasn't the best shot. Right about there on the power meter feels about good.
Nice shot.
So that feels like a good shot. It's just leaking a little to the right, and once again I will smack the fringe. It's not a very big target, but I am so good at hitting it. Fortunately, not too bad of a result. Busy's shot lips out, so he ends up in the front fringe. And his shot lips out. It's always tough to putt from the fringe, much more difficult than putting from the green. And Busy will take the birdie, and I'll get that stroke back that I lost early. So on hole 18, Busy eagles and I birdie. We get to hole 14, and I eagle and Busy birdies. So that's the movement on the leaderboard so far. Not a whole lot. And we'll be back to all square heading into this 6th hole here. We'll have hole 13 with some very light wind pushing to the right. A little over 3 dots of power with the 5-iron feels pretty good. That looks like it's on a great line. It just won't really come back for me as much as I thought it might. I thought that would bite a little bit harder, kind of zip up that hill in the direction that it landed. But it just kind of rolls back lightly, and it moves too far to the left. So I'll tap in for the birdie. Busy will birdie as well. We'll both be 7 under through 6, so 1 eagle on the scorecard for each of us. 7 under par is where we'll both be, and we'll move on to our 7th hole. We see hole 11 with the right pin and some tailwind, so 9 miles an hour of tailwind. Definitely adds some difficulty to this. Don't want to hit this over the green, which is easy to do when you're trying to go for the hole-in-one. Because you do really want to put this on the back of the green and roll it back. So I think a little over 3.2 dots of power feels good. That looks like it's on a good line. I will end up just reaching the fringe, though, and that'll take away some of my backspin. So if that zipped back down, like it probably would have if it didn't hit the fringe and held the green, that could have been on a great line. But it'll end up not rolling back enough. Busy will tap in for a birdie. I'll make a birdie as well. So we are still all square. We have each traded 1-shot differences at one point in this match. But through 7, we are both 8 under. And we'll move on to our 8th hole here in this first random 9. We'll see hole 3, a par 5 with some very light winds. However, it looks like we have that right pin that's always a little more difficult to reach, a little harder to hit into.
Nice shot.
So the pins in multiplayer mode versus my challenge mode vary quite a bit more. So this is one that I'm not quite as used to. I'm thinking that I may want to try the fade strategy just to get it a little closer to that right side and have a shorter chip. Because if I hit this perfectly straight through the trees, I'll end up well left of the pin. So I need to hit the tree gap. It looks like Busy also went for that fade strategy. I don't think the wind moved it that much. So I'm going to try to fade this through the tree gap. I don't get the fade that I'm looking for. It'll move slightly, but not nearly as much as I was hoping to get. We'll just bounce to a stop in that short rough. We'll be 40 yards away, which is a little further than I'm comfortable with this shot. If it's the front pin that we see in the challenge mode, this is about the perfect spot, 30 yards away. But that right pin is just a little harder to reach with the wedge, and I may actually have to try to go for the 9-iron. So Busy ends up just missing, it looks like. He'll be tapping in on a real close approach shot. This 9-iron play typically doesn't spin as much as the wedge, so I'll kind of have to bounce it up there carefully. It's a much more precise shot, and it just won't come back to the extent that the wedge does, so the fade strategy doesn't work very well. I end up having to use the 9-iron instead of the wedge, and I'll just miss it. We'll have to tap in for the birdie as well. So we are still all square. 8 holes in with 1 hole to play in this first random 9. We will both be 9 under, so we're both playing fairly well. Neither of us has done anything particularly spectacular, but just some solid play. We've each had 1 missed putt on 2 tougher par 5s. Or excuse me, mine was a missed chip. I overshot the green on 18 there. So we'll have hole 15 as our last hole in this first random 9. We'll both end up in the fairway. I'll be 109 yards out. It looks like Busy has about the same distance. The wind is 9 miles an hour, kind of pushing us to the left, but mostly headwind. I want to land this just left of the pin and see if I can spin it back from that left side. So I'm thinking the wind should move it a little to the left. I want to end up maybe about a square left on that green grid. So about 3.5 dots of power feels about right. I'll overpower it a little bit, but that may actually be fine, or it'll just glide to a stop. So it didn't bite. The back of that green typically doesn't allow you to bite and have it roll back. So just a little overpower causes that to end up on the back of the green. Busy has already birdied. So the best I can do is force a tie on this first 9. Now we are playing an overall stroke play match, so we still have 27 holes to play. I'll tap in the birdie as well, and we'll both be 10 under par through the first random 9. So some solid play for both of us. 10 under is a fairly good score. We didn't push super far under par, no crazy hole outs, but we didn't see a whole lot of wind that would enable that. Now we will do the closest to pin just to establish a tiebreaker if it comes down to it at the end. So we have an opportunity to, if needed, have something to base the game on if it comes down to a tie at the very end. So we'll use this. We'll have 15 miles an hour moving right to left and a very downhill chip from a weird spot that you would never end up on hole 17. So I'm just going to play this just purely by feel. It looks like Busy has a great chip at it. And mine's on a good line as well, but I'll hit the pin. So instead of holing out, I'll hit the pin and hit the lip, and I'll lip out to 5 feet, and Busy, with a great shot, ends up 3 feet away. So Busy has now established the tiebreaker. So even though we're both 10 under through the first 9, Busy has the advantage in this game. We'll move on to our second random 9 here, and we'll see hole 18 again with some nicer winds this time around. So we'll play hole 18 3 times in this challenge, because we're going to be playing the standard 18 after this. So the stroke play match is starting at 10 under to 10 under here. We'll keep that in mind. as we progress through this 9. We both end up safely in that left fairway, not too hard to hit when you have some helping wind. And this approach shot is going to be a little trickier. That pin is not the easiest to keep it close on. It's on the second shelf of that green. And with the wind pushing it forward, it helps the drive, but it causes the approach shot to come in kind of hot. There are some players who are very consistent on this hole 18. I have a little bit of a tougher time with it. So we'll try our best on a longer shot to put it close. I'm going to roll this one out, and it'll take a nice line. So I'll hit a pretty good approach shot there. Now Busy, on the back of the green, will hit a nice angle from the spot where it really starts undulating beyond that bottom shelf. So a nice putt from Busy. I'll hit my more straightforward eagle putt, and we'll both be 2 under. So 12 under is our match score so far. We both eagle the first hole, and we'll move on to the second hole of this second random 9. We'll see a tougher hole 2 again this time around. That pin is not the best. 11 miles an hour pushing from right to left is also a quite difficult situation for this. So 11 miles an hour is the maximum crosswind you can have on this hole. I want to aim this well to the right because it's so downhill that it can move a whole lot. It has a lot of hang time. So the 5-iron feels like the safer play here. I want this to roll out a little bit more. So I'm hoping to land this well short, and it should take a big bounce through the wind. It hits the fringe, which helps. And it'll bound down there to a nice spot 7 feet away with a nice uphill approach. So a pretty good shot there. A nice leave on a tougher pin on this hole that I didn't really think I could aggressively go for. Busy has birdied. I will birdie as well. And so we'll still be all square, other than the tiebreaker that Busy has already won. So for our stroke play purposes, we are both 13 under par through 11 holes in this match. And now we'll have our first special hole. So hole 21, with some red wind, the lightest red wind, so 24 miles an hour isn't the worst. And actually this direction is kind of helpful. So if I aim this well out to the right, I should be able to carry that right bunker, that second right bunker, no problem, because this is so incredibly downhill, and Busy will end up in that spot as well. So we'll both hit a good drive. Mine looks like it caught a little bit nicer of a bounce, so I'll end up a little closer. But we both have pretty nice approach shots into this very tough green. Now we see one of the pins that's not super difficult to hit. My shot is going to move a little to the left, but this green is so slopey that I kind of want to land it left and kind of spin it back after that. So if it feeds down to the bottom, that's kind of ideal. My shot's looking a little bit short, and it will bite. So usually when you're hitting it to that extreme of a downslope, the shot will typically kind of glide to a stop, but not there. That approach shot bites quite hard. Busy has already birdied a more difficult hole here. I'll have to tap mine down and sneak it in the left edge to save my birdie as well. So a difficult hole that we both play pretty well. We'll end up 4 under, all square in this second random 9. And we're both playing pretty solidly. We'll see hole 15 again, with a different wind situation this time. So this is maximum crosswind. However, once we hit it up there, and this will have a little bit of tailwind to it as well, once we hit it up there, this should become more purely tailwind. Now it will move left to right, definitely quite a bit. But it's not the worst type of wind situation, not the worst wind direction for this hole. So the wind's going to move it slightly left to right. We're going to want to aim a decent amount left. This green is going to feed left as well. Although with this back pin, it does kind of sneaky move right to left on the very back side of it. There's kind of a mound on the back knob of that green. So we'll keep that in mind. Since the pin is in the back of the green, I think I want to hit this with some rollout. So the wind is going to push it pretty far.
Nice shot.
And I'm hoping that that'll just kick right a little bit. Now it'll kick right a little too much. My shot moves also a little further to the right than I was expecting, and the wind really pushes it through the green. So we'll end up with a tougher putt here from the back of the green. Not too bad of a putt. It should move just slightly left to right. I'll have to hit it with a little over 1.5 dots of power to make sure I get it there, and it'll sink nicely. So a nice putt from the back of that green. We'll both birdie, and we'll both be 5 under on this second 9. So a very even match so far. Neither of us have been able to get anything more than a one-shot lead. Busy had just a one-shot lead at one point, and I pretty quickly erased that, and we've been all square since then. So a good match going. We'll see hole 14 again, so a lot of duplicates
Nice shot.
in this second 9 from the first 9. My shot looks like it's trending to a good line that'll just miss that tree on the right, and I'll end up nicely in the fairway. So I'll have a nice approach shot. Busy will end up right behind me, so a nice drive from him as well. I'll want to club up to the 3-iron here and hit this with some backspin. Now I know with a decent amount of certainty that this should just glide to a stop, unless I hit it short. So if I hit this with the proper power, it should kind of just glide to a stop up there. 3.5 dots with some backspin, that feels pretty good. Now will that catch the green? It will, and actually, catching the green in that spot, so maybe that was a little short. Perhaps I forgot to account for the wind that was slightly in the face. And it bites and rolls back, which is unusual. And Busy's approach shot will lip out 90 degrees. That was for an albatross from well off the green. So a very close call for Busy there. My eagle putt will sink. That was kind of a scarier one that moves considerably to the right at the end. But Busy will also tap in for eagle after nearly making the albatross. What a shot there. And we'll both be 7 under. So 2 eagles apiece in this second 9. Off to a good start scoring-wise for both of us. And we'll play hole 4 with that back pin. We'll have some tailwind to this as well, 6 miles an hour. It looks like Busy is going for the spoon play, and I'm thinking I'll want to do the same here. So this is one that I'm not super familiar with, but I know roughly what I need to do to at least put it close. This is one of the tougher pins to hit with the iron. You can't really spin it. So I'm going to roll this up there with the spoon and see if we can get lucky here. So Busy looks like just misses. My shot is tailing a little too far to the left. So we'll both have a good approach. I'll have a 10-foot putt. Busy's a little bit closer on the short side. And we should both be able to tap in for a birdie and keep this match all square once again. So Busy taps it in. My putt's going to move just to the right. I'll tap it in as well. And we'll both birdie. So 8 under through 6 in this second 9. A fairly good score. And we'll have to see if one of us can eventually break free from the other. And here we have an opportunity. Hole 8, always a more difficult one. And always one that can cause a birdie to a par. You never exactly know on hole 8. And this is not one of my favorite pins. This is not one that I'm super good at. Busy is using a spoon play again. I know that there's one here that is quite consistent. I just don't exactly know it myself. Busy's shot is on a good-looking line, I can see. And he'll sink it. So Busy makes the hole-in-one through some wind on hole 8. I unfortunately just don't know that spoon play, so I'll have to club down to the iron and try to just give it a run. So what a shot there from Busy with some wind on hole 8. My shot's going to take a nice bounce, but it'll end up just a little too far to the right. So I gave that a pretty good run for a shot that was kind of a guess. But Busy sinks the hole-in-one, and right on cue, one of us takes the lead. I'll have a tricky little putt here down this little hill. As long as I hit it with the right power, though, that should fall, and it just sneaks in the right side. So I'll hit a nice birdie. Busy is on a great pace. 10 under through 7 in this second 9. So a very solid second 9 for Busy here. I'm not playing too badly myself at 9 under, but Busy is just playing that much better right now. So 1 stroke plus that tiebreaker is the advantage for Busy. We'll move on to hole 3. And we'll each just hit a standard drive out there through these 2-mile-an-hour winds. Hole 3 oftentimes is a more eagleable hole, but it really depends on the pin, and we'll have to see what pin we get here. So we have the back left one, which is a little bit more straightforward and one that I'm kind of glad to see. So Busy ends up in that short rough. I can see him setting up. I'm going to bounce through to the bunker. Now, the bunker doesn't hurt you here. With the wedge, you can hit it the same distance. You get the 3 dots of power. And I'm just a little bit closer. Busy's shot looks like it's on a good line. The cheering emoji does, in fact, predict the sink. So Busy will make it for Eagle from behind the bunker. A nice shot there. Busy is on a tear on these last 2 holes. I'm going to have to make this just to keep up. And that looks pretty solid, and it'll creep up there and fall. So I will also chip in on hole 3. A more standard chip than that right side pin. I like seeing that back left pin, and we'll both be on a very good pace in the second 9. So 12 under through 8 for Busy. I'm at 11 under, and we see some solid play here in the second 9. We'll have a challenge here on hole 7. So 24 miles an hour pushing us to the right is not the easiest wind. I'm going to take the spoon and hit it about 3 dots of power, and that should bring me nicely down to that far part of the first fairway. I'm not sure where Busy hit to. I'll have to see where it looks like his approach shot comes from. So I have given myself space to hit this 3-iron in there. The spoon is the preferable play to this pin, but with this wind, you just can't sneak it through that tree gap. So I'll have to hit it up and over the trees with the 3-iron. And I'm thinking that about full power should be what I want. Now that's trailing a little too far to the right, and I'll end up on the fringe. So not the best of shots there. Just a little too much distance. It kicks a little too far to the right, and Busy has a great approach shot. So Busy is putting for 13 under in this second 9. And he'll tap it in. So what a second 9 for Busy. I'm going to have to fight here for my 12 under from off the green. It looks like this putt's going to break a little left at the end and maybe pretty straight before then. Oh, it'll move just right at the beginning, and that trail to the left at the end happens a little bit late, so I'll miss my putt. Granted, a difficult one from off the green and some difficult conditions on this hole, but a putt that I need to make in order to keep this match close. So Busy will take a 2-shot advantage. So through 18, Busy is at 23 under par, and I'll be at 21 under. So we each play a pretty good 18. I mean, breaking 20 under in any 18 is usually pretty good. Random 9s definitely mix that up a little bit, but 23 under through 18 is a great score for Busy. Particularly in that second 9.
Nice shot.
So now we'll move on to our standard 18. So we're just going to play holes 1 through 18 as our second 18. And this will be the second half of our match here. So we're continuing our stroke play. Busy has a 2-shot advantage coming into this standard 18. And I'll have to fight and claw back here. So we'll see hole 1 with very straightforward winds, 4 miles an hour pushing us pretty straight ahead. I'm going to leave my shot well short. So I was thinking I would end up hitting that a little more downhill,
Nice on.
and it might carry a little further than what the mini-map showed, but I end up just leaving it short. Looks like Busy had a better run at it, at least gave it a chance to go by the hole. Ends up putting for birdie, and I'll have to hit that from about 15 feet to make mine. So all square through 1 in our standard 18. Now Busy does have that 2-shot advantage heading in, and he'll maintain that. So we'll move on to hole 2. And we'll see, once again, just a very difficult back pin. I do not like that back pin on this hole. Now there is possibly a play here. I think a full 7-iron aimed slightly right is about the way you want to do it.
Nice shot.
And I'm just going to go for it. So hopefully that'll bounce off the fringe. I think that's what the 7-iron does here, and it does. And that'll take a big bounce and just miss to the right. So a very, very near make on a tougher pin on hole 2. Now, despite there being no wind, that's not necessarily an easy one. Busy is really lining it up as well. So Busy may have a play here to try to make this one.
Nice birdie.
His shot is in the air, and let's see where it ends up. Okay, so his shot will bounce down. Now, maybe that hit the rough first and lost a little bit of speed. But he'll have a fine birdie putt that'll maintain his two-stroke lead. And a nice one for both of us. So, a very precise pin, but nice birdies, making sure that we don't go off the back of the green on a pin that's very, very close to the back of the green. And we'll move on to hole 3. We'll see 6-mile-an-hour winds, and it looks like my favorite front pin, the one that I play every day in my challenges. So I'll hit just a standard full drive out there, just left of that tree. Busy's shot will actually clip the tree. So he may have aimed a little too far right there. And if I can make it through this tree gap, I should have a pretty good line at trying to chip this in to the local pin. So I'm going to go for just a little bit of a fade here to try to counter that wind. See if I can put it close, within 30 yards or so. Oh, and I way overdo the fade on my actual shot. So my practice shots looked fine. And my real shot ends up fading way, way more than I would have liked it to. So that travels super low, doesn't get a lot of distance. And I'll end up 37 yards away. Busy has chipped in. What a shot from Busy. From the right side there. So Busy clipped the tree off the drive, managed to get down there, took an alternate route, and still chipped it in for the eagle. So what a play there from Busy. My shot's looking pretty good as well. That should come back down, but it'll just miss to the left. So Busy now takes at least a 3-shot lead. I'll have to save a birdie here from about 12 feet away. Just back up that hill, moving a little left to right. I will sink it, so a nice save there. But Busy, with a nice eagle on 3 after hitting the tree on the drive, takes a 3-shot lead. So I'm going to really have to start fighting back here. I'm running out of holes. We are more than halfway through this match, and it's still trending in Busy's favor. We'll see some very light wind on hole 4. A pin that I'm not super familiar with, but I'm going to want to aim just to the right and probably hit this 3-iron just a little bit further than I typically would with that middle pin. Give it some backspin. And I feel like that's the proper adjustment.
Nice shot.
My shot is on a fantastic line here. And it'll roll back and in, so I'll make a hole-in-one, a very, very much needed hole-in-one. Busy will tap in a birdie. And we're back to all square on this 18. Busy maintains the 2-shot lead that he came in with. And we'll move on to hole 5. And I get a shot back. So we'll see 4-mile-an-hour winds on this tougher, longer par 5.
Nice shot.
Oh, Busy's shot is that right behind the tree? I think he may have accidentally curved that shot and ended up right behind the tree. So that's a tough break there. And I'll end up in a very nice spot just right of the tree.
Nice shot.
And I can just hit that down there. Oh no, Busy is in the water. So he may have tried to curve, it was off screen for me, but he may have tried to curve that around the tree to try to save the possibility for a birdie here. And he did have that 2-shot advantage coming into this game. So I'll still have to try my best to make a nice eagle here. But I may have a chance to square this one back up. So I'm going to hit this with the 9-iron and kind of roll it up to that back pin. It should kick to the right. It's going to be a little on the low side, though. It does kind of launch to a stop. Busy had a real close approach there. Kind of spun back just before it reached the cup. And he will tap it in for... Actually couldn't see. A double bogey.
Nice birdie.
So I actually now take a 1-shot lead. So a tough hole there for Busy. ending up behind that tree. Now that pine tree can really change around. It's annoying, but it's, you know, something that's intentionally there to add to the difficulty of that hole. So hole 5 oftentimes can be a real tough hole if you end up in just a slightly wrong spot. So we'll move on to hole 6. It looks like we have that front pin, and I'll have a nice approach at it. It looks like Busy took an approach to the right. Now I have played this front pin in my challenge videos every day, so I'm a little used to what the plays need to be here. This is not the easiest shot, especially because I have to cut it pretty close with that tree, because the wind is pushing it to the left. So not the easiest play. I want to land this kind of short. It looks like Busy's shot may have ended up a little short of the green. Yeah, he will be chipping. So I'm hoping my approach is on a good line. It just sneaks by the pin. So it's on the wrong side of the pin for that to come back and fall. But a nice approach there, and Busy will just miss a chip. It doesn't spin back for him. So he'll be putting for a par, and I'll tap in a birdie. So I'll now take a 2-shot lead. I'll be 7 under through 6. Busy is at 3 under after a tough hole 5, and it looks like some bad luck on hole 6 as well. So this last 18 has turned back in my favor. With this light wind, I'm just going to hit the 3-iron down there on this 7th hole. That's about exactly where I want it to be, and we should have a nice chance to hit the spoon through the gap here. Busy hits it all the way up to that shortcut fairway, so a good spot for him. I'm just a little more accustomed to hitting from this short fairway here. I kind of like this approach shot with the spoon. So I'm going to hit this considerably under 3 dots of power, because we have this tailwind. But I'm thinking if I can land this in the short rough and roll it up, I really like my chances here. To at least put it close and maybe steal an eagle. My shot's looking pretty good. It will clip the rough, but it will come in with just a little bit too much speed. So that's a fine approach, but it just hits a little bit too far and ends up behind the hole. Busy has already birdied. I'll have to tap mine down this pretty straightforward hill as well. So I'll be 8 under through 7, and Busy will be 4 under. So I'll maintain that 2-stroke lead with 11 holes to play. So we'll move on to hole 8, where we'll see that back pin. So a tougher pin, but I've been seeing a lot of the local pins. A lot of the pins that I play in the challenge. So this one feels a little more straightforward. I'm hoping I can put this one pretty close. This wind feels somewhat familiar. It's pushing it in the direction that I kind of want it to. So hopefully I can at least put this close and make a birdie here. That's a pretty good looking shot. It's just trailing to the right a lot more than I would like it to. And I'll roll down to a difficult spot to putt from. So not my best approach there. Even though I adjusted quite a bit, that's such a downhill shot that it moves just so far to the right, even though the wind was only 13 miles an hour. Busy hits a nice putt from over the top of that mound. So I'll have to try to make this as well. And I'll hit it with just enough power to catch that low lip, and it'll circle around and fall. So a scary putt, but a nice one. I'll be 9 under through 8 here. Busy is at 5 under. I maintain my 2-stroke lead overall. We'll see a tougher hole 9. So 29 miles an hour, kind of right in the face, is not the easiest of conditions for hole 9. But I should be able to get it down there in 3. I'll just have to hit a full drive, and probably, as long as I end up far enough to the left, I can hit a safe 3-iron through the gap in those trees. Busy ends up a little more to the right. We'll have to see what kind of play he uses here. But I intentionally left myself a little more to the left so that my iron shot here, my 3-iron through the gap in those trees, has plenty of room to move left. And it will. It should just land nicely in the fairway, kind of kick to the left a little bit more. And Busy did end up down in the lower right part of that fairway, or excuse me, the lower left part of that fairway. So a nice approach there. I'll be dealing with a little more crosswind than he will. So I'll have to really hit this one across the green here. It looks like Busy has reached the green. He is on the green. I'm going to have a tough approach shot here with all this wind. But I'm thinking with about 3.5 dots of power, that should be about right. Some spin can help to mitigate how much this is going to move to the left. And that's on a pretty good line. It's a little short, but it's on a decent liner that will zip all the way down that hill. But this is a pretty straight putt, so it's a 40-foot putt. There is no 40-foot putt in this game that's necessarily easy. You have to get the power right. I'm going to have to hit this really hard up the hill. But it's not going to move a ton. It's just going to move consistently to the right throughout the putt. So I'm going to hit it with plenty of power, and I'll get it there. So a nice 40-footer to save the birdie after leaving that shot a little shorter than I probably should have. And through 9, or I should say through 27, I'll hold my 2-stroke lead. 10 under through this first 9 of the standard 18 is a pretty good score.
Nice shot.
And I'll leave my drive on 10 a little bit short. Now, fortunately, that's a hole where that's not really going to hurt me all that much. But I'll have a slightly longer approach shot and kind of a weird distance on this one. I should be able to use the 9-iron. Definitely have to adjust this to the left to account for the wind. It looks like Busy has just outdriven me with a full shot. So he'll have a slightly easier approach. I'm thinking just a little over 3 dots of power should be right. That should roll up there. Oh, roll a little bit more. Wow, it'll just miss to the left. So a very, very close call on hole 10. I played that one pretty well, but it just doesn't fall. Busy's shot will hit the pin. So he goes for the backspin play and gets an unfortunate pin bonk and will now end up with a 20 or so footer that has a little bit of side hill to it from that angle. So a tougher putt and a real unfortunate result for Busy on hole 10 here. But he will sink it, so a nice birdie putt to save that one there. I'll be 11 under through 10. Busy is at 7 under. I'll still maintain my 2-shot lead. And we'll move on to hole 11. We'll see the front right pin this time around. So a little safer to try to approach than that more back right pin. You don't run the risk of going off the green quite as much. But it is a very precise hole-in-one to try to make. And if you can get it, it usually gives you a pretty good advantage.
Nice shot.
Oh, Busy's shot has ended up behind the green. Mine's going to push back pretty far into the green, but I put plenty of spin on it, and it'll come all the way back down. So I'll have a 4-footer, and Busy will chip it in. What a save there. That did have some wind to it. That was not the easiest of chips from behind that green. But Busy will save it. And once again, we tie on a hole and maintain the difference in our score. So I remain 2 shots ahead of Busy, heading into hole 12. We'll see 4-mile-an-hour winds pushing us to the left.
Nice shot.
So not the most difficult of conditions. I believe we have the back right pin, which is always a little more difficult to hit for me. So the approach is less straightforward. You have to hit the right side of the short fairway if you want to use the spoon, which kicks this considerably to the right. So I'll have to play this imagining that the wind is going to push me to the left quite a bit because it's so downhill. But then the bounce is going to kick to the right. The green also moves, so there's a lot to this one. I'm thinking that that adjustment should be pretty good to just hopefully put it pretty close. That looks like it's trending to a good spot if it doesn't hit the fringe, and it will hit the fringe. I believe we actually both hit the fringe, and we end up in identical spots almost. So we'll both have this little 27-foot putt that should move just right to left for this eagle here. So a little bit of challenge here on hole 12. Busy has sunk it, so because his shot was kind of online with me, it doesn't actually appear on my screen. And I'll sink mine as well, so nice saves there after hitting the fringe and bouncing super far past past the pin on hole 12. I'll be at 14 under through 12, so a pretty solid round. Busy is at 10 under. And once again, we tie a hole, and I maintain my 2-shot lead. We'll see hole 13 here with some very, very light wind, barely pushing us to the left. I believe the technical play here is to go for the spoon as Busy is, and we'll have to see where his ends up. I like using the 5-iron on this pin. 5-iron with some backspin tends to work pretty well for me. Busy's shot will just miss. And my shot will roll back and in. So I'll make my second hole-in-one of this 18. And I'll gain another stroke. So a nice play from me there. And the 5-iron works. So it just bounces right at the pin, rolls back nicely, and falls for the hole-in-one. So we'll move on to hole 14, where we'll see some right to left wind. I'm thinking that that adjustment looks pretty good to try to hit that tree gap. I will just underdo it though, or I'll overdo the adjustment, and now I'll end up in a tougher spot. So I'm going to have to... Ooh, I may have a line. I can see the pin just left of those trees. That's actually comically lucky that I ended up right here. I can maybe put a little bit of fade on this one and see if I can sneak a close shot here. So a pretty wildly lucky bounce after a pretty bad drive. Now Busy's already up there. Okay, I don't get any fade on my shot, and I just miss bouncing it up and over that bunker. I just catch the far edge of the bunker. And it looks like Busy may have ended up short and had to chip. So I'll now have a chance here to gain another stroke if I can chip this one in. Now it's not an easy chip, but it should bounce just to the right and then start rolling left, and it'll fall. So a nice chip in there to gain another stroke. I'm playing pretty well on this 18. So 18 under through 14 is a pretty solid score. Busy's at 12 under, and I now have a 4-shot lead with just 4 holes to play. So we'll move on to hole 15. We'll see 20-mile-an-hour winds kind of in the face, pushing us to the right a little bit. Now this makes this hole a bit longer, not super easy. But if I can just put this on the green and sink a putt, I should be in pretty good shape for this match. So I definitely want to adjust this a good amount to the left to make sure that we end up near the pin. I'll put a little bit of extra power on it, so you see that the third dot of power on the minimap is a little less than, or a little more than pin high. So I'll hit this just a little bit past where it looks like that is, so 3.3 dots of power we'll call it. And that looks pretty good. Now it's going to move way too far to the right. But one thing I did not want to do is leave this too far to the left where there's less green. And I'll give myself a nice birdie putt here. So this will move just slightly to the left. And with about 1 dot of power, that should fall no problem. And we'll both birdie. So I'll be 19 under through 15 in this standard 18. And Busy will be at 13 under, which makes our match score a 4-stroke advantage for me. Ooh, we'll see some interesting wind here on hole 16, where we can go for that second shortcut. And we'll both just go for it right away. So aiming over that first tree on the left, just slightly right of the middle of it because we don't have maximum winds, should allow us to kind of skirt through those trees, and we will both nicely make it. So now we'll have just a pure tailwind chip at a difficult pin here, so not the easiest of chips. It's going to move a little to the right on the green, but the wind might push it slightly left. It's tough to tell exactly what this is going to do, so I'm actually just going to aim right at it. Oh, my shot will curve slightly right. And I'll miss it a little bit to the right as well. So perhaps I needed to adjust a little to the left, and I curve it and end up missing right anyway. So not my best chip. Busy has birdied. I have a tough little side hill one here, a scary little 2-foot putt. But I'll aim that well to the right and tap it in. So I'll save the birdie on hole 16. I'll be at 20 under. Busy will be at 14 under. And we have 2 holes to play. I'm holding on to my 2-stroke lead in this match. We'll see a very, very nice condition on hole 17 here. I believe this is actually just a full driver. The wind shouldn't affect it all that much. I should be able to just put this one pretty close. And hopefully have a nice putt for the birdie. Hopefully not launch over the back of the green.
Nice shot.
And that should just kick left off of that front fairway and hopefully take a nice bounce, and it will. So both of us have a nice approach there. We're both to about 3 feet or so. And that may actually be about the best you can do when there's any wind in the face on hole 17, unless, of course, you launch it. In which case, you run the risk of putting it all the way over the back of the green. So we'll both birdie hole 17. I'll maintain that 4-stroke lead. And we'll head into hole 18 of our 36-hole match here. So this is our 36th hole, hole 18 of our second 18. And we'll see 15 miles an hour moving right to left.
Nice shot.
So you can definitely reach that left fairway with this wind, no problem. It looks like Busy will go for it as well. And as long as I can avoid any sort of disaster here, I should be able to take a hold of this match. So I definitely want to adjust this quite a bit to the right. This is a very long shot. 15 miles an hour is going to push it considerably left. I'm going to want to roll this one up there. This pin is at the apex of the green, so as long as you end up somewhere within the shelves, not anywhere too far outside of it, it should be a pretty straight putt. So I don't want to do anything too crazy here to try to hold this out or anything. I just want to put it as close and as safe as possible. So I'll hit this with a little over 3.5 dots of power. That should roll out nicely. It looks like it's on a very good line. It'll trail just to the left. Busy's shot is very close. That's about 2 feet.
Nice approach.
I'll end up 7 feet away. But we'll both have pretty much tap-in eagle putts here, so no movement on this one. It's just straight up that hill. And I'll make a 23 under on the standard 18 here. Busy will be at 17 under. Now, he did have that tough hole 5, and oftentimes in these matches, it really comes down to one hole. So Busy, for the most part, outplayed me.
Finish.
He was ahead for the better part of that match, and it really just came down to that one hole. So GG's to Busy. What a match. That was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed watching.